Hey everybody, I am here with Caesar. Turn around so that's not the camera. Here with Caesar, and I have another book review for you. So I got this book was a bit of a surprise for me. It's We Speak for Ourselves: How Woke Culture Prohibits Progress by D. Watkins. And I got this. I'm actually not even entirely sure why I had this on my list. I don't know if I just happened to see the title and I liked the title, or if I or if I was, I heard about it on a podcast or something. I can't remember, but I got it because I thought, oh, how woke culture prohibits progress, and I thought that it would be, a little bit. So I thought that it would be like anti-woke kind of stuff, and and it is a little bit, but also it ended up not being what I was expecting at all, which ended up being a really good thing, because it gave me like a different perspective on things. So Watkins grew up in East Baltimore and still lives there, and he goes through, and he really paints a picture of what it's like to grow up in that environment, and how the people there really feel like there isn't a way out and they have to do what they're doing in order to get by. And and that's something that, like, it's easy from the outside to say, like, oh, well, just change your habits, when you're not in there living it. And so I found that really interesting. And but I definitely at certain points was, I found myself going back and forth between, like, being like, oh, come on, don't you see what's happening? And being like, I completely agree with you. And I kind of went back and forth until the second half, or the last like third of the book, where he actually, for a while it was like, okay, so you're talking about how terrible it is. You're talking about, a little bit about your life and telling stories. And so when are you going to get to, like, what's going on, how you can fix it? And he does get to that, and his ideas are completely different from what you normally would hear, because on the news and social media and stuff, all you see are the demonstrations and the riots and the this and the that. And this was written in 2019, so it was before COVID, before all of the everything that happened over the last few years happened. So I'm curious. I did do a quick search to try to find, like, what he's doing now. I couldn't find much. Maybe I wasn't looking in the right places, but because I'm curious about his opinion on what has happened over the last few years. But at least in this book, he's basically like, demonstrations and those kinds of things don't really, what good do they do? I mean, they might make you feel good in the moment. Maybe you get some press. Maybe, people think about you for, 15 minutes, but then no lasting change happens with that. And he talks about, so he's a professor, and he still lives in Baltimore, and he's there. He's really doing what he preaches, and really, making a difference for the people in his community, which I feel like isn't really what you see from, these talking heads that go on the news shows and just, preach at you. It's, he's actually there saying, we need to teach kids how to read. Reading is the most fundamental thing. He works with young kids in school as well as being a professor, and he does a whole lot of work in his community aside from that. And his biggest thing is teaching kids how to read and write. And I think that is, and I completely agree with that. And that's something that, like, you know, the public school system everywhere, including here in rural Vermont, has failed miserably at. Teaching kids how to read, especially. And if you don't know how to read, man, you have so much closed off to you. And I really, really appreciate his view on that, and his work in that, like, not just telling, and he goes on to say, like, if you really want to make a difference, it's like, don't just turn your profile picture black. Don't even just go out and demonstrate with a sign. Teach people skills. Teach people usable skills that they can then go out and use to better themselves and to, maybe start a career with or whatever. And that's the kind of change, I've always thought, like, in, obviously, like, his world is something that I know nothing about. And I appreciated, learning more about it. But I think that it's the sentiment of teaching people life skills is the same. And that's something that I'm not seeing in the public school system even here. They're just not. And so I think that that's something that, like, that's a message that really needs to get out there. I've always thought, like, okay, so we want to talk about, like, ending this the generational poverty. Well, then why aren't we teaching kids about finance? Why aren't we teaching kids how to save, how to invest, how to just balance a checkbook, how to, why aren't we teaching kids these things? They're not being taught. And if the best way, teach kids how to start a business, like, just the paperwork, like how to go to the state and fill out the forms, how to, this is something that we don't teach kids, and then we expect them to just magically get themselves out of a hole by telling them that their family has been kept down for generations, and you should, we're telling them these things and we want them to do better, but then we're not giving them the skills to actually do better, to actually be able to end that generational poverty. And that's what this guy talks about. And I just thoroughly, I started the book going, oh, this isn't really what I expected. And then I was like, oh, you know what? He really has a point here, there. And he really, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And then I got to the end of it and was really inspired by his message of, if we want to change things, this is how we do it. And so I really, really enjoyed the book, and I think that it's something that, everyone should check out. It's a quick read. His writing style is very, like, you imagine that's how he talks. He writes how I imagine he probably speaks, which is an enjoyable experience. I like it when, writers, it feels real. So I like it when writers talk as they would, or write as they would speak to you. Because it feels like you're having a conversation. So I enjoyed that too. So anyway, yeah, check it out. We Speak for Ourselves, How Woke Culture Prohibits Progress by D. Watkins. Really good book. And something that, he talks about getting out of, he doesn't say it exactly like this, but kind of getting out of your bubble. And, we all have our bubbles. And, and he has his bubble too. And it's understandable. We all have them. We're all in our bubble a little bit. We all gravitate towards, what we understand and what we agree with and what, and I think he has that as well. I mean, he talks about in the book at one point about how at one point he had never really talked to a conservative. He'd been around Democrats all his life. He spoke at Democrat things. He works in university. And he did get out of it a little bit. And, and this was something that this book got me out of my bubble a little bit, in a good way. Not that it's necessarily bad ever to come out of your bubble, but it surprisingly got me out of my bubble because I thought it was going to keep me in it when I started reading it, or from the title of it, I thought it was going to keep me in that bubble. And when I started reading it, I was like, oh, this is not what I expected, but in a really good way. So check it out. I really liked it. And I will be back tomorrow. Hopefully, if I remember, because I'm going to be busy tomorrow, but I'm going to try to remember to do a Farm Friday tomorrow. But anyway, I hope you all have a great rest of your day. And if you like this, if you found it interesting, and this is one of the reasons, what he talks about with the reading in this book is one of the reasons why I do these book reviews, is because I want people, I want to maybe introduce books to people that they wouldn't otherwise, see, or know about. So anyway, if you liked it, hit the like button, share it, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you all hopefully tomorrow, but if not tomorrow, definitely next week. Bye. I guess my little thingy isn't working. All right. Bye.